I don't miss sweet. I miss mushrooms, but I just realized we were talking about it last night. I went all of 2024 and I did not do a drug of any kind and only had one drink. So I was like, damn, I really did raw dog 2024. Brother.
You monster.
Yeah, I was raw dogging the year.
Whenever I hear someone raw dogging life, I'm like, let's see your porn search history. There's gotta be.
Nasty.
The simplest way to put it, I have problems.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Pain Management Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Roderick McDaniel, and to my right is my best friend and the greatest co-host in the world, Mr. Jimmy Moynihan.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back.
I think that was your best intro right there.
Was that good?
That was so good.
I kept it simple. Usually I fuck it up.
Yeah, I like how you have the greatest awkward energy, but that was a good one. I
Yeah.
love that one. Also, we have a special guest today. Now I'm doing the finger guns. What is wrong with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're contagious.
To my left, Miss Rachel WOLFSON. Okay,
Yeah.
Rachel's
Yeah.
Jimmy's contagious.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that.
I am very contagious.
I love it, man.
So, this is pain management. We talk about, we usually go through like mental health diagnosis and
Oh, we're gonna need a lot of time today.
yeah. Is there anything off limit? I should have asked this before.
Probably not.
Yeah, just let us know
Yeah,
if it gets.
we'll leave it up to the editing
Yeah.
and to the Lord.
Yeah. Okay, so I like to ask the guest, are you mentally ill?
Is water wet?
It's coming in fired. Okay.
It's a good start.
What are all your diagnoses?
Well, we can start from the beginning. I've been diagnosed and misdiagnosed and all the things, but it originally started when I was like 5 years old. I was diagnosed with ADHD and oppositional defiant disorder. And then when I was 12, I was diagnosed bipolar. And then as I got older, I've also been diagnosed with like nonverbal learning disorder. I think they tested me for like autism and Asperger's, which was questioned. And then the last diagnosis that I got when I was in college was borderline personality disorder, which I do think I have that for sure.
The oppositional one at 5 is a killer.
Yeah.
So what is that?
I think it stems from just like not listening.
Right.
You know, I'm not really sure. I think, opposition, I'm defiant. I don't
To
Right,
people in
right.
leadership positions.
Right.
Yeah, I
So
don't. I have a
parental
problem
figures.
with authority, which I've always. I
Yeah.
agree. I've always had I don't like being told what to
Wow. Just a
do.
defiant.
And it's funny because my parents were technically in positions. I mean, as your parents, they're authoritative figures,
Yeah.
but with their jobs and careers,
Especially your mom.
yes,
The judge.
my mom, she was a judge, and my dad, he's also a politician. He's the district attorney of Las Vegas.
Oh, what? I didn't know that.
And then my sister just recently won her judge race. My sister's a judge now.
I saw that. That's cool.
Yeah, and so and they were also at one point criminal defense attorneys. So they represented criminals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. And then so your parents just authoritative figures.
Yeah.
And you're defiant.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think also like for them, since what they did do for work made them extra sensitive to like behavioral issues and problems that I had,
sure. Which is good because they, but you were diagnosed bipolar when
Mhm.
you're 12 years
Yeah.
old. That's pretty young, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that, well, I've heard other stories and situations where it's easier, or for insurance purposes, they will diagnose someone with bipolar so that the insurance covers the
Right.
medications that you're being prescribed.
Oh, wow.
Because like
Yeah.
I also, have depression, anxiety, all the things that are associated, because a lot of these disorders or I guess disorders, they're mixed in with other types like depression as well as anxiety.
Right.
So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That 12 still seems like a.
Yeah. I remember like even as young as I can remember, I had depression, suicidal ideation. I think I wrote my like first suicide note when I was like 7 years old.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
second grade?
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard because when you're a kid, especially like when I was growing up in the 90s, essentially, it wasn't very common that these types of now it's extremely common. Everyone's being diagnosed later in life or whatnot. But I didn't really know anyone who was going through what I was going through with all the doctors and therapists and medication.
Yeah.
So it's a very lonely place to be when you're young and you're being made to feel like, oh, you're different, or you're problematic, or like having to leave class to go to the nurse's office to take medicine, and you're like the only one who you know is having that experience is difficult to digest as a kid.
Especially from 5 to 12. That's 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the most formative 7 years of your life.
Yeah.
And you're about to start puberty, and that's about to be a whole nother blast of hormones into your body.
All the hormonal issues.
Yeah.
And like when I was 5, I was taking Ritalin. So I was taking a stimulant. And again, a lot of these medications have side effects that cause other issues, with like anxiety or whatnot. So yeah, just all the fun things at a very young age.
Yeah.
You were destined for comedy.
I know.
You were destined.
It's so crazy because it's so common, but to have that feeling that, am I the only one that's like, that's fucked up in the head?
You won't even be, because you won't even know the other kids in the school that are on the meds.
Right, you want to know.
Because
and
they can't say anything about it,
treated.
but you will feel like I am the only person that this is happening
and
to.
This is like back in the day when like having mental illness wasn't cool. Like now it's like super cool and trendy. And because like there was still that stigma of like, oh, they're the crazy kid. That's, you should stay away from. As if like you're contagious to the other kids.
Yeah, because Girl Interrupted. I remember the 90s.
I love that movie.
Yeah, Girl Interrupted was out. The Gin Blossoms were on the radio. That's the wrong time for people to be thinking you're about to Angelina Jolie. You gotta watch Girl Interrupted.
Yeah, I think the who's the other Natalie Port or who's the other girl
in it?
Brittany
Murphy?
Whoever
she was in that movie, but
Winona Ryder. I think I think she was borderline.
Yeah.
Angelina
Jolie. Yeah, they were in that movie. It was it was a who's who of young Hollywood. But
oh, for sure,
dude, that was a great movie.
So borderline personality disorder. Can you explain to people like kind of what that is?
It stems from typically like childhood trauma.
Yeah.
And what it mainly deals with is like emotional dysregulation, and that stems from rejection and abandonment issues. So like when I was a kid, my parents, they weren't very like my mom and dad were like, if I was upset, it would be like, why are you crying? Don't cry. Rather than like, where is this coming from? Like here are the tools that you need in order to deal with that emotion. There was none of that, because also at the same time, there's a lack of education with them on what's going on with their child and what tools can they provide to deal with these types of issues. My parents, I think also like a lot of it can come from like, I think there was something I read like from working mothers who are not, around a lot. Cause like my parents worked all the time. They still work very hard. And I had a lot of like babysitters growing up, and I was left, with them. And these are just like young women who, don't know how to typically deal with a kid who has all this energy and emotion. So, and yeah, I felt a lot of rejection and abandonment as a kid, basically.
Are you the youngest or the oldest?
I'm the oldest. I'm the first child. So
and a lot of pressure falls on you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's also something that I still deal with today. And of course I picked the most amazing industry to work in that,
We've never faced
rejection and abandonment is par for the course.
Well, it's kind of like, what's it called when you face your
fears? Yeah.
fears?
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called.
It's called our career.
I can't
That's
think
what
of
it's
it. Yeah.
called. We
But just
face that
immersing in
abandonment
the
every
thing
year.
that you're
Yeah.
afraid of. So borderline personality disorder will develop because of obviously external.
Yeah, I think for the
things.
most
That's
part,
interesting.
it's environmental, but I'm not really sure how much of genetics fall into this particular.
That is one of the most interesting studies about it, because
Yeah.
you can have two kids raised in the same house.
Mhm.
Kind of like my brother and I, we were raised by the same parents. We grew up in the same environment. We lived in the same houses our whole lives. We are so opposite in how we react to everything, and how
Mhm.
I, as the older, I think I was just way more emotionally in tune with things, but I also felt those things differently. And then I went off to the military, where he's more stoic. He just kind of watches the situation, but also he was the baby.
Mhm.
He didn't have to take a lot of the bumps and bruises. There was somebody in front of him that paved those paths for
Right.
him. So it's weird. But yeah, they studied borderline personality disorders. Fascinating stuff to study on.
Yeah, it's one of like a lot of therapists don't really like treating it. There's a stigma that comes with it, and it's one of the most difficult personality disorders that are out there in terms of treating it. I mean, there is, depending on what type of therapy, like I do DBT therapy, which is dialectical behavior therapy. If you are able to treat it that way, there is like a high success rate of for this to go into remission.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the challenge with borderline is a lot of people who have borderline don't know they have it, and and maybe aren't willing to go through the type of therapy they need in order to conquer it, because there's not really a medication that treats it. Of course, you can treat the depression and the mania or the anxiety, but in terms of like the emotional dysregulation, you need talk-based therapy in order to like really deal with it.
Yeah.
To give you the tools to manage.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
So you really have to talk yourself off the ledge a lot.
Yeah, which, it's difficult because you basically, like in my brain, I just have like an evil roommate that lives there rent free. And it's a constant battle of like trying to decipher, is this really happening or is this just what I'm telling myself? Because it really, when I'm going through my episodes, it feels real. Like, and then I'm very lucky that I have a boyfriend who's educated. Like, he knows more about borderline than I think I do, because I find it very difficult to like read about it.
Mm-hmm.
But he'll call me out on it and be like, this is your borderline. This is not really what's happening. But for me, it's very real what I'm going through.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to just, because at that point, then it's like, I'm being invalidated because, he's telling me that it's not my lived experience,
and
that
it's
I'm
so
going
real
through.
to you in the moment.
Mhm.
So that's frustrating.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's helpful, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's helpful because, if I was left alone with my thoughts, then that would be the reality in which I'm reacting to. And
Right.
so,
And will you start spiraling? And all that?
yes. Yeah. I would have these like episodes, which now I'm very lucky I got on. I was medicated for a long time growing up when I was a kid, up until college, and in my late 20s. And I came off all my medication because I just at one point was like, there's a lot that goes into taking all these medications, especially when I was going to college. my parents were like, you need to get a job where you have insurance so that you can pay for all these medications. And like, I'm a millennial. So I graduated college during like the housing crisis and everyone was getting fired from their jobs. And I'm having to compete with like an entire generation above me competing for the same jobs that we were when we were, graduating college. So there was that. But also like at one point I was like, maybe I just don't need these medications because everyone has an opinion about what I have. So I came off for a while. And at a certain point in the last like 3 years, I started to come back on medication because my borderline got so bad that I was like, I stopped believing in medication. I was like, oh, the pharmaceutical industry, blah, blah, blah. And I also was a heavy weed smoker. So I was self-medicating with weed, which I'm 6 months off the sauce. I'm 6 months sober from weed.
Congrats.
Yes, thank you. So the weed started to turn on me and I came back on medication within the last few years. And I finally found a cocktail, as I call it, that really works for me. So my episodes are few and far between now, which is really good.
Cool.
What was it like when you first got off all your meds?
It's hard to say because I was such a heavy weed smoker,
Right.
that I feel like I was suppressing a lot of the emotions that I would have. So I think that I've always been dysregulated, but because of how much weed I was smoking, I was kind of dealing with it a lot more internally and in my own mind.
Okay.
But also, I would be in relationships with people or friendships and like, things would happen where the reaction to the event, the prompting event wasn't appropriate for I would react inappropriately for what had happened, I guess, per se. And there was always like I would have like friendships end or relationships end and it would be like I didn't know why, but it was clearly because of like what was going on with me. It would and that's the thing about borderline. It's like you have unstable moods, behaviors, and relationships. That's a common thing.
Right.
Because it's hard to be in a relationship or a friendship with someone who's emotionally dysregulated.
Yeah.
So,
but that's also one of the best ways to regulate. I mean, they say is to have the tribe, to have the group and the interactions.
Yes.
Because you need somebody that's like cuts through the bullshit and talks to you straight.
Or at least like understands what's going on within that person to, that then you'll have more compassion for what they're going through.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, I love that you asked her that question because that was one of the things I kind of wanted to know is about when you come off those meds, and I've done that, and I've done it with like depression medication and quit it cold turkey and say, I don't like the side effects of this. And that's the number one thing, doctors, hey, that could create suicidal ideation and all these other issues.
So like, for example, now because I'm on a proper medication, like the intensity of the emotion is not, I don't feel it as intensely as when I was off medication. But again, a lot of that would be balanced out with the weed.
Yeah, the weed can just deaden the senses for you.
Yeah. And so, but at a certain point, the weed started to turn on me. So my lows were very, very low. Like, I mean, the suicidal ideation I went through within the last couple of years and particularly was some of the worst that I've had since I can remember. I think it got as bad as it was. And at one point, I knew it had gotten the worst it's ever been because I started self-harming. Like I was hitting myself, which is something I had never done before, not even like as a kid. And that was something that was really hard for my boyfriend to deal with because, it's hard to watch someone hurt themselves and not be able to help themselves in the moment.
Right.
So yeah, that's when I knew. I was like, I think I need to like really find medication that can help level me out at least. And once I started going on that medication, I stopped self-harming.
Wow.
Like I was able to, there was like the intensity tapered down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I used to self-harm too, just until recently. And but the thing that helped me was when I got on I have bipolar disorder,
mhm.
and I got on a mood stabilizer.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just stopped harming myself, and an antidepressant.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, and I didn't think about, and it's crazy that I didn't think about it, but just in my past relationship, how hard it must be to see someone I would just wail on my head,
Yeah.
just
It's
start
scary.
pounding on my head.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's scary, and it's but it's for me, it was like this build up and this like I can't deal with how my head feels.
It's a release.
And it's a release, and like I would do it until I exhausted myself. So and then I'd be like, okay, now I have a new problem, which
Right.
is my fucking head hurts. You know,
The worst it got was I was having an episode and I ended up falling
Oh.
and breaking my back. I got a fracture in my back.
Okay.
And for a couple months, and it like I didn't need surgery or anything. It was just one of those, you need to rest and your body needs to heal.
Mhm.
And just like some medication, but they prescribed me the pain medication, and I wouldn't take it because I was worried that I would like develop a problem. That stuff
I'm
is
getting
like
addicted
very
to this thing that's here to help me.
And so I just did like the ibuprofen, the 800 milligrams, and just rested. But I was having a hard time walking. I wasn't able to work out, and like this is all from like a borderline episode that I had.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the working out helps you to put the chemicals in your body that
Right. Yeah.
It's so weird how we all know this stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm the worst. I don't do the workouts like I'm supposed to.
Oh, I do. I work out like almost every day.
Game changer.
I was into it for a while, and then it was the best health I've ever been in. And then I just quit going. 2020, I think we all quit going to the gym.
Yeah.
But when the gyms opened back up, I did not go back. And that's one of the things I am changing this year.
Yeah.
Especially with
it's a great feeling going to the gym and just getting in that zone with the AirPods on and just
and plus 47 weeks on the road, it made it hard to go to anything.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Well, I'm all about like finding what works for you. Like I work out at home. I have weights and all the things that I need, because I don't also like going to the gym sometimes, and it's overstimulating.
It's a lot.
There's people will come up and talk to you. It's like, no, I'm just in the zone.
See, yeah, I used to pick the weirdest hours. There were times with my sleep apnea and insomnia, I would go to the gym. It was 24 hours. I'd go at 3 a.m. It'd just be me and the people that were running the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Be it. And then I have control of all the TV, so it didn't matter what I was doing. I could lift weights. I'm watching 4 different channels at the same time, so my brain is not getting a chance to think about any of my issues. And then all of a sudden, Planet Fitness said, hey, we're not going to be open 24 hours anymore. And I went, I don't want to live anymore. So that was pretty much how it went. But I love 24-hour gyms. You just make your life fit to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I applaud you, man. You you at least took responsibility for the things and said, let's fix this.
I've always, that's the one thing I'm grateful for, is I've always, I'm just always willing to try anything to conquer what I'm going through. And that's a big part of it. That's why a lot of, I think, people struggle is, one, like I said, they don't realize what's going on in their minds and in their bodies. And also like being willing to do something about it.
It takes a lot of courage to do that.
To admit you need help.
To admit, and to be, you're very aware, and you feel like, I feel like you listen to what's kind of going on with your body, and I mean, that's brave. Like quitting weed is not easy to do.
Yeah. So I started smoking weed when I was 19, and it was for sure a self-medicating thing. Like I just fell in love with it, basically. And 6 months ago, because with my borderline, it had gotten so bad, and it got to a point where I was like, the weed just isn't helping me, and that was like a hard conclusion to come to, because I was like, weed was like my personality. Like you couldn't tell me that weed was bad, or you just you couldn't even talk to me about it in that way. And I just remember I went home 6 months ago and I was spending time with my family, and they brought up something from my childhood and I just had no recollection of it. And I'm like, is that from trauma blocking or is that just from the like which came first? But either way, it scared me.
Yeah.
And so, my parents are getting older and I just want to remember as much as I can with them. And also my grandmother passed away from lung cancer when she was young. She wasn't even a smoker, which is kind of shitty because I've recently started smoking cigarettes. So I've replaced one vice for another.
We all do.
I'm having a phase right now, but I just woke up the next day when I came home and my boyfriend asked me if I wanted to smoke, because we were the type of stoners where as soon as we woke up, blunt. Like I was smoking like 8 blunts a day. Like Justin knows, I when I first started podcasting here, blunt in my hands, like we couldn't even start it until I lit the blunt. And so he comes in and he's like, do you want to smoke? And I was just like, no. And like I quit cold turkey.
Wow.
And also the nicotine at the time I quit, and I went through a like pretty intense withdrawal from the nicotine. I got really sick. I got smoker's flu, which I didn't know was
a thing. Because I was having all these like symptoms like body aches and headaches and nausea and why is my nose running?
Yeah,
all of a sudden
just
for
like
no reason. Yeah,
like literally, it felt like I got hit by a bus, and then it turns out that there's a name for it, smoker's flu, and then the worst symptom I think that lasted the longest was the nightmares. I would have these really intense dreams and nightmares, like there's nothing you can do about that. You just have to like get through it. And it recently stopped. Like I don't really have I don't have the consistent nightmares that I was having, and that lasted like 4 months at least. Yeah,
they're so vivid and they seem so real. And just because, did you have any dreams when you smoked
no
weed?
and that's normal.
Me neither. Yeah. So I think it's like no dreams when I smoked weed.
I dreamed the best dreams of my life on
No, they
weed.
were just gone.
It's pretty common that you don't dream. I mean, not to say that it doesn't happen.
So weird.
Yeah, I had the most like vivid, amazing dreams. They would be cinematic.
But then when you quit,
when I quit, it was a different story. Yeah, I don't miss weed. I miss mushrooms, but I just realized we were talking about it last night. I went all of 2024 and I did not do a drug of any kind and only had one drink. So I was like, damn, I really did raw dog 2024, brother.
You monster.
Yeah, I was raw dogging the year. And it was me and one of my best friends. We were just kind of sitting talking about the year, and they were like, how was it? And I was like, what are you talking about? They went, you didn't do drugs all year. And I'm like, well, hold.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I guess it was okay. But yeah, I only had one drink. And when I had it, Cody Myers and I were in Tyler, Texas. We just played the Rose City Comedy Club. And we were celebrating that, hey, it's our third time playing. And we almost sold this thing out 3 times. We were just a few seats shy of another sellout. And I was just like, we're over at our buddy Taking Dotson's house. We're having food. We're celebrating with cake. And they're making whiskeys. And I go, hey, let me get some whiskey on a Sprite. And Cody's like, are you okay? What's wrong? What are you doing? What's this? And I was like, I just thought it'd be cool, have a drink. And he's like, you don't drink. What's happening? Did you get some bad news? And I was like, I really don't drink so much that y'all freak out.
Yeah.
No, I just don't want any more drinks for the rest of the year. I will drink in my closet like everybody. But it was cool. But I just realized 2024 was the year I kind of raw dogged it and I quit everything. So I was like,
good for you.
Yeah, I don't know if I would recommend that to everybody.
No.
That's not for everybody. There were some crazy ups and downs. You were with me through most of them. So
yeah, you got through it.
Yeah, I did. Boy, those were.
Whenever I hear someone raw dogging life, I'm like, let's see your porn search history. There's gotta be.
It's nasty.
There's gotta be.
So, I was
there's
thinking the
gotta
same
be.
I said
thing.
we all picked up a vice.
I just always
There's
think
gotta
of
be
this-
something in there.
Yeah.
There's a crazy amount. Like, those grandmas are not grandmas I graduated with. Yeah, it got insane
Raw
there. I was
dog.
like, why am I doing this? Okay. But yeah, man, that's the thing. I think a lot of times you said something so important is that you knew what your whole diagnosis was.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times there are so many people because even now, the more we know, it shocks me how little we know
Mhm.
about mental health. And there are so many people going through thinking, well, everybody feels like this mentally.
Yeah.
And
No,
there's no
yeah.
big deal. And I'm like, no, some of us are doing this a lot. We're playing this game on harder than everybody
Yeah,
else.
a lot. Also, like when it comes to mental health, depending on which culture you're from, and your gender, I guess per se, it's approached very differently. Like a lot of different cultures don't believe in therapy, don't believe, in mental health, or it's always like, oh, you think you're mentally ill. Well, how about in Africa, there's children starving
Yes.
and like,
know.
like basically minimizing your experience. Also for girls, a lot of women are diagnosed later in life because it's such a common thing for guys to be diagnosed with ADHD. And girls, the symptoms show up differently depending on the gender or whatever. Right. And then, so it's everyone's experience is different. And, I think culture does play a lot into mental health.
Yeah.
So.
And we've talked about that on here about how mental health is. We've had such a varied amount of groups of people on here that we talk about how mental health is in the African-American community and how those issues are seen differently. But we also had Yola Lou on here and about the Asian community and about, do we go outside the community to talk about these issues that we have? And so, yeah, I think that we should address it more, but just because I think we should doesn't mean we do.
Yeah. There's also like, it's not even just mental health, it's just health in general. Like I think, I forget which comedian was talking about it because like prostate cancer gets super undiagnosed because a lot of men, I think particularly in the African American community, and not just that, but like it's gay to have something stuck up your butt. They'd rather not do that than like go and get a rectal exam or whatever it is, like a colonoscopy.
I've seen 2 comedians in the last week that have done jokes about prostate cancer checks, and the guys doing the joke in Buda and the guys on the front row are all 50 to 60. They say, oh, y'all gonna get on? You need to get checked. He just started calling everybody out, and I loved it. But I remember that was the thing with my family was that cancer, colon cancer particularly, wrecked the men in my family. And I was like, I'm not going out like that. Me and this, I am really weird about my intestinal health because of issues related to my military service. So I'm always having to get everything checked. But and it was probably the greatest nap. I'm just saying this right now. If you're a man, go get that colon cancer check. Go get the prostate cancer. You're going to take the greatest nap of your life. They're going to put a drug in you and then put a tube up your butthole that you're never going to feel.
What's better than taking a nap and having somebody else finger your asshole?
Right.
Look, being awake while they do it.
It's only gay if you're awake.
That'd be the only thing cooler. I'm awake and hard. Thanks, Doc.
It'd be crazy if you woke up and you're just hard and like,
now, why am I like this? And Doc's like, I don't want to know what happened. But let me be awake if we're going to do this. But it was the coolest thing. And then they gave me pictures, which I thought was weird. They gave me pictures like, hey, you look great in there. And I was like,
did you hang them up on the wall?
I thought about putting them in a frame just to make my daughters mad. I just do stuff to drive them crazy. I'm not doing it to be funny. I just like bothering them. Okay. So, but no, it was cool. I suggest that. And we lose so many men to that.
Yeah.
Just like that is still, you think about No Shave November. We'll talk about growing a beard for the month of November, but we don't talk about what the whole reason we're growing those beards in November was for. And that was the only reason I grew a beard. It started at me like, hey, I lost my dad to cancer. I lost both my grandfathers to cancer. I lost my ex-wife's grandmother to cancer.
Oh my God.
So I did the whole thing and raised money. And then I never shaved the beard. It just kind of reminded me about these were all the people I lost to cancer. And then I got serious about my health and started going to the doctor and staying regular and doing those things like, it's one thing to tell people, yeah, you should take care of yourself. But the best example you can do of that is taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And now people are more willing to listen to me when I say, you should take your ass to a doctor or go to therapy.
Yeah, you've been through it.
Yeah. So, and that's why when I tell guys, go to therapy, I don't want them arguing with me. I'm proof that you can stay alive if you go and live a better life.
Yeah. I don't know why I have so much trouble with therapy.
I don't
just,
either. You're not my only friend that has trouble with it.
If you get the right therapist, it's great. I had a great
Yes.
therapist in New York, and I mean, I looked forward to going to therapy. I think it's kind of like dating, like kind of finding a partner, right? You just have to find someone you mesh with.
And don't be scared to leave a therapist to go find the right one for you.
You know, it's like going to a bad comedy show your first time seeing comedy,
Saying you
because
hate comedy.
if it's a horrible experience, you're going to be discouraged to go out there and you know,
I don't want to see
go
that
again.
It is a lot like that. It really
It was
You know?
terrible the first time we went. I don't want to see any more of that.
Because you're really at that point enduring something, not just like enjoying, you know, like, yeah, I mean, it is important to find a good therapist. And again, a lot of people, like any job, you know, some people get into it for the wrong reasons. Also, a lot of therapists themselves are unstable, you know, and I just, I mean, it's like, even, you know, when you go to school, like having a really good teacher can save your life, and then having like a horrible teacher can just traumatize you.
Right.
So it's all about that individual experience. And, you know, the thing about therapy, like, you know, you just gotta keep trying and find someone who's the right fit for you. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, then once you find someone, it really is a game changer. Did you do DBT?
Yeah, I started doing DBT in college. I'm still in DBT.
Oh yeah.
I've started and stopped and started again just because like life and scheduling. The hard part for me is I just can't fucking stand group therapy. I just go into it with a bad
Your
attitude.
joke is very funny.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I have jokes about it, but I'm not to be an asshole, but I'm just like, I don't give a fuck what you're going through.
Right.
I don't want to know about your stupid life or your fucking retarded children. Like,
it's a little
but
much.
and I just am, and like also like I don't know what my issues have to do with and like I made the mistake in one of my group therapies by being honest and telling them that I was a comedian, because, you know, you go around and you share who you are and what you do. And then it's like, at one point, these people are Googling me. And at one point, this one girl wanted to be my friend. And it's like, no, we don't mix business with pleasure here. We don't, you know, like and like they wanted to come see me do stand up. And I think, like, I'm just like, this is a boundary. Like,
100%.
And so now I like in the group I'm in now, they don't know what I do. And
I did that in group. I know what you went through.
I'm just like, I think I'm just, if anything, I'm afraid if I tell them like I'm like a stripper, they're going to still want to come see a show.
Right.
You know?
That happened to me in group.
You.
Yeah.
I actually had a guy come to the show recently, and what got me, we were it was our mindfulness meditation group.
Yeah.
And that whole cognitive therapy recently came up to me. He said, "Hey, do you go to the VA in Austin?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "I'm a veteran too. Were you ever in this group therapy?" And I was like, "Dr. So-and-so?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yeah, I was in that." And he said, and then he told me his screen name. And I went, "Oh my God, yeah, I know you." And he was cool. It was a great experience. Met his whole family. But yeah, it's kind of that thing. He was not looking for me. He happened to be at the comedy show I'm performing at.
Yeah.
So it was a great experience. But at the same time, when I told people that first group I was in a comedian, oh, they knew my sets. They knew jokes from online.
It's all on you.
I don't want that.
People are so
I'm here
fascinated.
to get fixed. I don't want to lead the group every time and talk. Let y'all shut up and talk.
Yeah, that's where I think it can be. Well, in LA, they have literally like therapists and group therapy for people who, you know, work in the industry. So it's not,
oh, that's cool.
You know, but like, there, especially in LA, there's a lot of those like celebrity rehabs, and you'll be in there with like Lindsay Lohan or whoever, and it's like, how do you like not, find that fascinating, or the focus comes out not on you but on the fact that I'm in rehab with so and so or whatever.
I want to hold her up as like an icon of somebody who really went through the worst and is living her best life
she looks
now.
so good. I want her plastic surgeon's information.
Oh my God. Yeah. Everything she got sober, she got kids, she got married, she got clean. It was like, girl, you just fixed everything.
Oh, well, I was on Twitter, and when recently, and everyone's like, what's the secret? And someone's like, sobriety. It's like, no, bitch, that's not just sobriety. That's like hundreds of thousands of dollars of, the best doctors.
Yeah, there's some sobriety in there.
And probably a chef and
probably a
personal trainer,
dietitian fixing my whole diet. Yeah, there's a whole lot at work, but sobriety's in there.
It's right. There's like a tweet. It's like, you're not ugly. You're just poor. Like it's literally.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm one Kardashian paycheck from being the hottest black guy in Austin. Hottest old black guy in the game in Austin. If I get one Kardashian paycheck, y'all gonna be like, I remember him when he looked like the dad on The Fresh Prince. Okay,
Uncle
different.
Phil. Your Uncle Phil era.
Uncle Phil. Yeah, I'm gonna be hot if I get that check though. I promise
you can really fucking fix your face.
Oh, I'm fixing everything, man.
I don't think it looks. I don't know. I mean, when it's bad, it looks so bad.
Well, exactly. I mean,
those lips, when the people have those lips that just pout out.
Yeah, and the duck lips. Did you guys ever watch that series Nip Tuck?
No.
Yes.
Oh, it was so good. It was on FX, and I remember when it first came out, because it was a very. I'd never seen a show like that. That was just like that raw, and but it starts with, each episode is these two plastic surgeons who have their lives are in turmoil, but the client will come in and they'll be like, so tell me what you don't like about yourself. And it's like, there's so much that goes on in a person's mind that they're going to a doctor to fix what's going on externally, when really a lot of the times you should be focusing on internally what you should be fixing. Yes. So it's just putting a Band-Aid on whatever it is.
Those episodes of that were crazy.
Yeah, very, very good show.
Crazy. Because, man, there'd be things you're like, wow, somebody would have a hang up about that. And it'd be something I wouldn't think about, but then I'd think about my hang ups, and I go, okay, I can see where that could happen.
I mean, the big thing is like, because I used to hate my body. Like, I despised myself, despised the way I looked.
Really?
And like every little tiny thing that was wrong with me, I just felt so ugly. And now obviously I feel better about myself. I love myself more. I try to love myself. And then that, now I don't feel like I have to fix anything.
You know what made me feel better is during Skankfest, I saw the naked roasts. And I was like, damn, my body is actually pretty good. Like,
I went to that. I know exactly what you're talking about.
If you ever want some confidence, go to a naked roast and just, it puts things into perspective for you. Exactly.
I walked out like, you know what? They're very courageous people, and a nigga is kind of cute.
And also, it was like, damn, men will pretty much fuck anything. They will find as long as you have the parts,
right? Yeah.
And the parts don't even matter. It's just parts.
Yeah.
You're not wrong about that. I saw some of my boys like, I was like, y'all really? Oh no, man! Thank God for getting old. I got standards now. Okay.
My favorite is when it'll be like a guy and a girl comic roasting each other, and they're naked, and the guy's like attacking the girl's body in any way,
right.
And then it's like, you are literally disgusting. Like, God took a day off from work when he made you. Like he sent his substitute in to, and it's just like, yeah, it's and then the judges won't even let them get away with it, because it's like, how can you even say anything?
I know, but they're both just ripping each other.
You're
just
literally
like,
disgusting.
You are literally offensive to look at.
I watched that whole thing and I was like, this is wild. It does make you feel differently about the world.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And, I really admire like, there's so much that goes on to, like, I really think it's, one, it proves that, if you are funny, it doesn't matter what you look like, if that makes sense.
100%.
And also it's very free. Like, if you could stand up there naked and tell jokes, like, that is to me the ultimate free, raw experience that you could do. And you must either love yourself or really fucking hate yourself to put yourself through that
It's such a thin line, because I know a lot of those naked roasters.
Where is the line really? But
I know that thin
because
line.
that is again, like, I mean, it's you are up there naked with your own, in your own shell of a human,
while being made fun of,
and
people laughing,
and also bombing sometimes, like, the jokes. It's
God.
like,
yeah, and this is a packed room,
bombing naked,
standing room, 200
is
people were
a
in those rooms
whole
sometimes.
nother level of pain, and you eat like, and that's, it's like you must feel nothing at that, like, you know what I mean, to go through.
I got homies that do it
something like
every
that.
year, and I just watch them like, what in the world are you doing?
You fucking hate yourself.
God,
and I respect that.
How do you drive home without going off a bridge? At that
Look,
point?
man, I those are my friends that I give the most hugs to and I check on the most, because those are some powerful people. I was like, there's nothing that can stop you if you can go through that. I used to think I was fat when I weighed 189 pounds, bro.
Right.
That's not fat. That was just a chunky athletic dude. And I used to think, oh my God, I'm so disgusting.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, bro, man. I say this all the time. If I was as skinny as you, I would be the most trouble in this town. I think God is just nerfing me at this point. I know it now. He's like, nah, fam. I'm not gonna let you be funny and hot. Stop.
Right. Yeah. One or the other. It really doesn't. It really doesn't matter what you look like, right? I mean, there's.
Jimmy, I've been married 3 times. I can prove to you it does not matter.
As a comic, it's like, it doesn't. Yeah. I think it helps a little bit. I mean, like, to be attractive. But
yeah, I mean, I mean, you could probably do studies on this, but if you look at, like, pretty much all the most famous comedians, they're all generally good looking, like, especially, like, the most success, like, especially the female comics, they're all beautiful.
Yeah.
And for them, I mean, yeah, to me, like, Whitney, Ali Wong, Eliza, whoever, I mean, all of them are objectively, Sarah Silverman, Taylor Tomlinson, they're all beautiful.
Nikki Glazer,
oh my God, they're literally hotties, certified hotties, and even, like, for the most part, the men. But I also do really like, I like when a comic can go up there and make fun of themselves, but not in, like, a self-deprecating way, because, like, I don't like self-deprecation. Like, it makes me uncomfortable, and it's like, oh, like, it just makes me feel bad for that person. But
really,
yes, like, I hate self-deprecation. I don't know, I get, like, sad if it's like too. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to do it where it's like, but I also don't like I know what I look like. I look like that kind of annoys me too.
Yeah. Hey, but you thought of Uncle Phil when you saw me. Don't play.
Yeah, but
I know what you're thinking.
Yeah, exactly. because like I don't really have the ability. I don't have that kind of, like, that's when comics have that, where they go out there immediately and are like kind of saying what the audience is thinking because of how they look.
Yeah,
like, that's like a quick joke, that
quick way to get a laugh. And it is. I know what you mean when comics, I mean, they're usually bad comics.
Yeah.
But when they do this self-deprecating thing where it's like, it's almost like it's not a joke.
No.
And then you see
I've seen that, and
you
that
see
hurts.
the audience gets uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And then they feel more uncomfortable because they didn't laugh at their shitty self-deprecating joke that was awkward, and now it's just a weird vibe.
It's
Right.
that thin line once
You know?
again, where can you walk this thin line between
like-
self-deprecation and also relatability?
Yeah, I mean, I have a joke that where I'm talking about how my parents would be relieved if I killed myself.
Yes.
And-
But you do it in a way that's
Yeah.
funny.
But yeah, there's no like I'm feeling bad for myself. I'm saying almost more matter of factly, and then I'm also like laughing about it's but like and I think that's the only way to do it is where the audience not even for a second feels bad for you.
right.
And then you're good.
Dude,
And yeah.
You watch me do the joke where I say I was married 3 times and I found out in therapy I was the problem in all 3 marriages.
Yeah.
And that joke crushes.
And
but
you're
it is
comfortable admitting that, and you're comfortable you're owning that, and it nobody
it was the
feels
most
bad for you.
greatest
But
thing
the
in therapy
thing-
to learn that.
The thing that makes it funny is the lack of self-awareness that you're having on stage. Like someone had to tell you that.
Yeah.
Almost
I
like
was the
you
problem,
yeah,
yeah.
like you
Yeah.
and that's what's funny is like you
You didn't even have a clue. You
it
were the
was someone
problem.
else telling you
Yeah.
that, not you telling you,
You
that,
didn't
if that makes
discover it.
sense.
You're
Yeah, and my whole story, that's what I think really changed for me comedy-wise, was that I started telling those personal stories and finding that humor. Like, there's real humor in some of this crazy stuff that I did and telling it. And then what I found out after shows where people were coming up, telling that story about my best friend and going through their transition in their transition.
Mhm.
And then
transition.
having this best friend who I love more than anyone in this universe. But then now I'm being introduced to this world of her other friends. And I don't like all these people. I like a lot of them, but some of them are idiots and jerks,
Yeah.
right? And so there's this story where all my comedy is me weaving into all these different groups. But I think that's our thing. We got to find that line that we can walk. It's like, I just want y'all to relate and have a good time.
Yeah.
And show you at the end we're all a hot mess.
Yeah.
That's this whole podcast. We're all a hot mess.
Yeah, for sure. You have a lot of dark jokes.
Yeah, I've really been trying to, and it's hard, especially when it comes to like borderline stuff, because it is such a difficult disorder,
Right.
and it is very serious. And
Yeah.
when you're talking about like suicide and self-harming and
Right.
things like that, it's like, okay, how do you tell it in a way that it's funny
Mhm.
and that people will get it without making them feel bad for you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I've just been trying to work on it for years, and I have a couple borderline jokes.
Mhm.
But like I would like to do a whole thing on borderline, and
That'd
it's
be
just
cool.
like, where a lot of, now that I'm in a much more stable place, I feel like I'm able to laugh
Exactly.
at it
Yeah.
versus like when you're in it. Cause like
It's
when
too
you're doing
real, yeah.
comedy while you're suffering and being unstable, it's the worst thing. I remember
Oh,
like
man.
in the last few years when I was like not on meds and I was just smoking weed, like oftentimes I would be having an episode right until I got on stage.
Wow.
And then as soon as I got on stage and I got the first laugh, that made me present. It took me out of the episode.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so like, I would wipe away. I would be backstage, like literally tears in my
my
eyes. And then
God.
as soon as I walked out there and got the first
Wow.
laugh, it was like,
I kind of snapped out of it.
I snap out of it.
And because
Wow.
of that, would you kind of use comedy as well as a crutch, being like, okay, I'm a mess right now, but tonight I'll be on stage and I'll feel better?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, but also no, because if I don't do well, that would send me into an episode as well, because
Right.
that's
Deeper.
rejection right
Yeah,
there. And I'm
damn.
already in a bad place. But like
Wow.
the highs were good. And that a lot of times they'd be like, oh, this is like this, thank God for comedy. But then other times it's like when I couldn't even get, there were days I couldn't even roll out of bed.
Yeah.
And the only time I'm getting up is to go to a show.
Go to a show.
And, I'm just having like a fucking existential crisis up until the moment that I get on stage. And I'm literally, and that's the thing about, with borderline, and any mental illness, like self-validation is so important. And like with me, when you're leaving it up to an audience to validate you,
Oh my
which is
God.
very dangerous, because if it doesn't go well, then you're basing your self-worth and identity off this
Wow.
one audience.
Oh
New
my
city,
God.
new crowd, and you don't know how they're about to
Exactly.
react.
So
Yeah.
it must feel so bad to bomb then.
It's, I mean, but again, like it was this past couple years, it was really bad. But again, I'm still under 10 years of comedy. So it's mostly, I mean, it's going to be bad. Like,
of course.
You're
Yeah.
going to hit some losses. You got to take some L's.
Have
and
to.
so, is that me?
I don't know. I'm in airplane mode. I checked one time.
Oh, that's immersion therapy. That's the word I was thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because does it get easier?
Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like there's a skill in there's a couple skills in DBT, like willfulness, which is, being willing to just be willing to participate and use the skills. And then there's opposite action. So it's like, in your mind, you're like, I'm not going to get out of bed. I'm not going to get out of bed. But you have to do the opposite of how you feel, in a
right.
sense.
You do this when you are, hey, I'm kind of in isolation. And then I say, just force yourself to go somewhere
I
and be in
do.
public.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's oftentimes like comedy would be really good because it would get me out of bed
Mhm.
and it would offer me the release from that emotion that I was suffering from all day. So, it's that first laugh. And the reason why I fell in love with comedy, because it gave me something that I had really, the validation, which could be good or bad. Cause like I said, you really got to learn how to self-validate and not
100%.
put it into other people.
And the most important part about what you just said is when you're on the road, and I'd say this to everybody, this is one of those things you learn. If you're on the road and you're not traveling with someone, like I have a benefit, I travel with a partner in comedy. But when you're a comedian and you're on the road by yourself and you have one of those and you bomb, a lot of times when comedians have those suicidal ideations are in hotel rooms,
Jesus.
out in the road. I'm away from my friends. I'm away from my family. I don't have a system built in for people. Hey, I'm not good right now. Who do I call?
Well,
that checklist.
When you're on the road and you're by yourself, the only interaction with other people is when you go on stage that night. Like
Yeah.
you will not even talk to anyone until you get to the club.
Yeah.
And then when you go back home, it's like, that's why it's good to have like mentors and friends, friends in the business, but also like family and stuff that you can talk to who aren't doing comedy. Like, my boyfriend, he's a comedian who's been doing it like 17 years. He's, almost 10 years more than I've been doing it. So he's been a really good resource for me to talk me off the ledge and normalize what I'm going through and, validating my experience, because that is so important with what we're going through and what we're dealing with, especially because we're all so mentally ill and having to, work in this very invalidating industry.
It's so weird that we love it too, but I didn't realize how crazy it was until I was in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, I don't do the smartest thing for my mental health.
It's
with
very
the career I've
difficult
chosen.
to be in comedy with because with my bipolar disorder, it really is it's sometimes just too much. And it's like when you depend on comedy, it's like because it's not sustainable to have that where it's like I need to wait to go on stage and then feel better after that. Or don't. You just can't go that long like that.
Build those systems, and I'm always going to say this. You got to have. I have friends that I know at a moment's notice. They can call me, or I can call them, and they're going to be there. There are times where I call people, and I'm just like, I don't need you to solve any issues. I just want to FaceTime you.
Yeah.
Listen.
Let's hang out and talk about anything.
And those
but I need you right now.
Non-comics or comics?
It's a mix of both, because for a lot of comics, I'm their guy. But my people are a lot of people who have been through it with me from like the video game industry or knew me for years.
Yeah.
Some are my friends that are veterans. We just kind of have this. I realized it's important to build tribes, and it's the best way to say it. Build you a tribe of your people that, when the shit hits the fan, here's my tribe. And so especially because when I when you used to tour back in the old days, I'm 22 years in this. The way we tour now is nothing like when I first started. There were many a times where I had friends that would get in a car, go out for 47 weeks a year and be by themselves in that car.
Oh, wow.
Hotel room to hotel room,
Jesus.
living in shitty conditions, sleeping in their car at a Love's truck stop to go to the next gig. Now, I mean, it's different. You know, we got social media. There's some things we can do, but having people you can call changes so much of that.
There's also, you know, my therapist has told me, because like with all the rejection that we experience in comedy, which is every comic goes through, it doesn't matter what level of success that you are, even the most famous comedians in the world experience rejection in real time to this day, regardless of where they are. It's important to do things outside of comedy that make you feel good, whether it's, you know, sports or a hobby or, you know, wherever else you can just like nurture yourself.
Absolutely.
And also, you know, like you can't you know, you can't just do comedy. You have to have life experiences
100%.
and you know, experience life basically.
That's beneficial to your comedy.
Exactly.
Too.
So you have stuff to go out and talk about on stage.
But
so
there really has to be other stuff. You're right. I mean, it's such a game changer when there is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, in therapy, they're going to tell you that. They're going to say that because if comedy goes bad, but your personal life is great, then your personal life is picking up the slack of comedy.
Right.
But you have all these different facets. Well, I got this hobby and I also do this group. So, because there are chances 3 or 4 things could shut down in your life.
Mm-hmm.
But if you got 6 or 7 things that your hands in, you're going, well, at least these 2 things are holding me up right now. So
right, exactly. Because when I only have comedy and then something goes wrong, it feels like it's the end of the world. You know?
Yeah.
I game in a group. I told you about it. We have a group of dads that just get online and we just game together sometimes. And it's been times I've been in. We got a Discord channel and I'll just be in there with headphones and a microphone. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm just playing the game. We're not even all in the same game together. And it feels so comforting to know these 7 jerks would talk to me if I need them to. Now, they're the most brutal dudes I know. Like there's a clip of guys where they're playing a game and he said, I just want to know if you guys would be there for me if I needed you. And they were like, absolutely not. In fact, I can't wait for you to die so I can tell you I'm glad I did absolutely nothing for you. Right? They're friends, but we're talking evil to each other. Yeah. But I know if the chips were down and push came to shove, every single one of these dudes in this group would be there for me. And I just sometimes just want the comfort of just, I hear their game through my headphones while I'm playing this thing I'm playing. And then we don't, hey, how's your kid doing? How was school?
Aww.
What happened this year? Just that whole thing. And it's just a weird thing. Sometimes it's the most silent group I'm in. I can hear everybody else's life in there, but none of us are talking crazy. Yeah. There might be 2 guys holding a conversation. I'm just sitting there. Roderick, what are you doing? Man, I'm stuck in this level. And they'll be where at? And I'll tell them. And one of my buddies may actually, his whole thing is, hey, I'm looking up this clue for how to beat it. Here's a video I'm sending you. And we're just in this Discord, and it's just so important to have that, build up this world, your tribe.
Yeah.
And have those other areas that you're in that, hey, if comedy were to start sucking for the month of January, I got some other things that I can do. So
yeah, that's important.
It's super important.
Stay connected.
And I got PTSD and severe depression disorder, so I'm like, it don't take a lot to disappoint me. And I've bombed on stages where I was like, oh, well, that sucks. But I'm also hard-headed, as you guys learned last year with my health. How many times did I come here where I was fighting an intestinal infection? Should have been in the emergency room. And y'all were like, hey, we got to shoot this episode before I die. Let's go.
I know. Can I be honest with you? I was like messaging other comics to replace you as a co-host just to be safe.
I appreciated it because I was on the door. Yeah. I'm a terrible person to say.
He wasted no time.
Yeah.
Jimmy was like, yeah, I know you're having problems, but the podcast.
I kept telling him, I said, because they would always find out, like, why are you here? Look, we got to shoot this episode today. And I drove them insane with that.
Dude, you were like just one heartbeat away from having David Jolly be sitting here with me.
Oh, wow.
Bro,
Yeah.
look, there was seriously one time where we both know that. There was,
No, that was scary.
Yeah.
Very scary.
Aw.
Yeah.
I was literally in the emergency room and I was like, hey, they're giving me morphine now. Why? Because I cannot stop my blood pressure from spiking from
Oh,
the
wow.
intestinal cramps I'm having. And it would be like, I remember the one that scared him was when it hit 200 over 150. I think that was the one they were like, he's about to have a stroke. And the morphine. And then I did 15 minutes in the emergency room for him. It was my favorite set. I wish we could have recorded it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That was scary.
But do you guys feel like also you're at a point now where like, I honestly don't care. Like the bomb doesn't hurt as bad, if that makes sense. Like it's just like, oh, I'm growing. Like it's all a perspective thing. Cause it's like, you know, you have to take risks. You can't just kill it all the time. And bombing
100%.
actually doesn't mean that you're failing. It actually means that you're succeeding and that you're trying new things. You're, you know, working on new jokes. Like
I never want all my stuff to be 100%
Right?
successful because to me, that would bother me with some of my favorite comedians now. They'll go out and they'll tell a half-assed joke, but their fan base loves everything they put out. And I'm like, that has to suck. I want to feel I don't want 100% of the people to love everything I say.
you don't want to play it safe all the time. You know,
I want some of this
That's
to
boring.
have pushback.
right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, again, it's well, and that's also the thing about emotions and you know, with borderline and stuff, it's all about like perspective. It's like the dialect, like two things can be true. Like, yes, I bombed, and also I tried out a new joke and it got a laugh. So it's like,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
So it's all about the gray areas in life, and you know, recognizing like two things can be true.
Yeah, it's not I bombed, which means I suck and nothing
I
I'm
should
ever
die.
gonna do. Yeah,
No.
Yeah,
it's
that
I
was the old
bombed
thinking,
and
yeah.
that got a chuckle, and I can look and I can develop that.
And
That's
I learned something,
Learned
what
yeah.
not to do, or
Yeah.
I tried a different inflection. Like it's not just a complete failure on
Not
its
at all.
own.
Well, like bombing, people say this all the time, but bombing is like so important because one, you learn so much more. And then when I listen to my sets that I bombed, I pick up things almost right away. And it's so valuable because I'm like, okay, I won't do that again.
Exactly.
Sometimes I'll just listen after a bomb and I'll just hear the tone of my voice and I'm like, oh, I sound fucking miserable.
Yeah, you
Of
weren't having
course-
fun up there.
Of course they weren't laughing.
Right.
I sound like I'm about to blow my you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
I used to tell audiences, I used to say, I hate you guys, I'm never coming back. And I never meant it.
yeah.
And sometimes the audience would pick up on he's joking with us and they would run with the joke. But I remember one time I said it and I said, I'm never coming back to this town. So I'm going to tell you the story. And I said it and they laughed. But after the show, this lady came up to me. She said, are you really never coming back? And I went, I'm never doing that again. I really had this lady, sweet, kind lady who loved my comedy, upset that I thought our town sucked.
But it's also interesting how anger on stage can be extremely funny. Like look at someone like Brian Holtzman who goes up there.
Oh my God.
He is so funny. Like you know, he comes off as this like angry, ranting, obnoxious man. But it is so funny. And again, like there's always people who don't get it, who don't see that it's like a character that's
what makes it fun. Too.
And you know, I love the Holtzman walkouts. Like,
It's
you
the
know,
best.
it's so meta. And it's
So
you know,
cool.
it's interesting how like anger is so like I just get like, have you ever seen someone in public being really angry and you can't help but laugh at them, and then that makes them angrier,
they don't
you know?
like that, yeah.
But it's
My favorite is when I see it happen and I'm like this.
Yeah.
It's just, you got to give them that look like, I'm not trying to be nosy, but I'm going to watch this whole thing.
But yeah, you know, anger can be really funny on stage, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you do it right, it's
Mhm.
fantastic.
Everybody else was laughing, but this one lady, she made me go, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah.
I got to let them know that this is part of the joke.
So in my real life, this may come as a surprise to you, but I am a big complainer, and and my boyfriend thinks it's so funny when I complain. But of course, like I'm like, this would never make me likable on stage. But he's like, no, I think you could find a way where you could make it funny.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's like it's you up there, you know, and so yeah, because my thing is like with me, I feel like I struggle with. I get a lot of feedback that I am likable on stage, but then I'm like, I think I'm playing it too safe because I feel like who I really am is still likable, but like I'm afraid to show the side of me where they like, you know, I might come off as unlikable. And I think, but that's where I think artistically and comedically, I need to like toe that line more because that's really who I am.
Yeah, for sure.
Showing more your personality.
Well, like you are likable. People like you off stage, and you're likable on stage too. But people are okay with you when you complain or something bugs you, you know? So you will be able to, this is how what I think, you'll be able to do that and not even have to eventually, once you learn how to do that, you won't have to worry about people not liking you because of it.
Yeah.
You know?
You got to show some warts every now and then.
I know, because like I am, you know, I think there's power in complaining sometimes. Like I somehow get shit done when I complain. Like I'm not like a
really
Karen, but like I care, you know, like
somebody clip that for me personally. That's my new affirmative word of 2020. I'm not a Karen, but I care. I need that clip.
Like someone
I'd
has
be Karen.
Yeah. And so yeah, I think you know, I think that's kind of like my goal for this next year comedically is to like be more of myself on stage and not be afraid of you know, putting people off.
I get it.
Because like look at Holtzman. I mean, there are people who receive him well and they get him and those are his people. And then you have the few in the crowd that are just like, fuck this racist guy. Like,
exactly.
And it's like, no, this is a character. This is like,
you have
know?
no idea he's playing you right now.
I mean, people talk about the way people talk about Brian Holtzman that like him and that get comedy and get him. I mean, there's no one, I think, in this scene that doesn't get like it more respect than him. Like he's so
a comics
respected
comic.
and talked about. And like I've had conversations where it's just people going around telling Brian Holtzman stories and like moments he had on stage and stuff. And that's because he isn't afraid of because he's not doing comedy for the people that don't get him. So they don't matter. And the people that do, and that's so right on, at least for me, I have to like remember that. It's like, I'm doing this for people that like me and like my comedy and get me. I don't have to worry about the people that
the best
don't.
thing my uncle, the pastor, ever told me, he was like, even Jesus didn't have 100% people liking him.
Yeah.
And I have to go, and that fool was saving folks. He was curing the blind.
Yeah, like if he was alive today, there'd be so many people unfollowing him all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Like,
literally.
That was one of my favorite things about the election, where people were like, Jesus is too soft. He's on liberal, woke. And I was like, you're mad at Jesus for being woke?
Yeah.
Oh, come on, man.
I also think like you have to write for like what you think is funny.
Oh, 100%.
You know, like what makes you laugh.
100%. Because like for a long time, I would write stuff that I did not think was funny, but I just was like, this will get the crowd.
Right.
And it's like, that's just such a, dude, it's such a terrible thing to do because like it's people like if I go back to being off stage, people like me because I'm uniquely me. And,
I would,
you know,
I would write things that I personally felt strongly about.
Yeah.
And it could be a joke about race relations or politics. And then I'd be like, America's not ready for this joke. And I would shelve them. There was a whole notebook. And that was one of the things about touring with Cody was that we played that room in there was Pittsburgh, Texas. I'll never forget it. Greatest show of my life. Walked out on the stage. Mike's there, but for sound check, there was a Trump 2020 flag right there. It was huge, as big as this setting behind you. And I remember doing that room with Chris Espinosa and getting a standing ovation in it. And I was just like, one, I can't judge all these books by their cover. Two, don't be scared to say the things you really believe in on
Mhm.
stage, because truly the thing that you think is funny, that you 100% believe in, there's somebody else out there.
Oh yeah.
And they may be wearing a MAGA hat, but they 100% were able to listen to you and hear the humanity in that joke and laugh. And so I show a lot of my warts on stage, but
That's
it's
good.
me.
That's a resolution I want, to be more vulnerable on stage.
Yeah. Oh my God. I made a tweet about this the other day. Someone sent me a message recently, was like, I really liked how you were vulnerable on stage. And I was like, if someone says that, you're bombing. Like,
yes.
yeah, bombed. They weren't like, oh, you're funny, killed it up there. It's
You're
like, no,
really
you were
vulnerable.
really
No,
being yourself in the
that's-
moment and telling your truth. And
That is not when you want to hear that.
and then there was this other DM I got. I did a show the other day. There was literally two people. I'm not even kidding. There was two people in the audience, this giant room. And then like the producer's mom and her friend. So technically 4 people, but like all those people there were the friends with the producer. So like, and here I am just like, I'm playing to the bartender in the back. Like
Wow.
I'm just working with what I
Yeah.
got, you know?
Mhm.
And I got a DM that was like, I really liked how you didn't phone it in up there. It's like, I wish I could have called someone to help me, like
Yeah.
call a friend, you know? I was supposed to do 20 minutes and it's like, all right, let's fucking go.
Did you do
It's the
20
most
minutes?
discouraging
Oh yeah, I did
thing ever.
25 minutes because the
Holy
producer
moly.
didn't even like me, and I'm just like, what is going on here? You know, and so I was like, wow, I just I get some really good compliments this week. My favorite like backhanded compliment is like, you're a really good writer.
Oh, I hate that one.
Just stab me.
I hate that.
Just stab me. I don't want to hear that one.
Yeah.
I get that so much, and it's such a bummer. Just say, hey, you're funny, or you're a great comedian.
Yeah, but you are a shitty performer.
Yes.
That's what that feels like. And I know that there are a lot of times the normies, as I call them, the non-comic people, think they're giving you the greatest compliment of their life. Like, you are an amazing writer. You're a great writer. And I'm like, did you laugh? That's
Right.
Let's go. This is not my job, is to be a great writer. My job is to be a great comic.
Right,
What are you
right.
thinking?
Oh
But
yeah, or like when someone who's not a comedian is like, you know, you should really, or they say something like, you could use that in
Oh
your
my
like,
God.
it's like,
in your little skits.
yeah, someone in your sketch, yeah, or like you'll see someone, they're like, are you still doing your comedy stuff? You know, just really cuts you to your
It
core.
does.
Someone sent me a DM once who I was in therapy with, and she was like, have you seen the show Shameless? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, I really think you could like use that in your bits. And I was like, you want me to take a show? And I just was like, listen, thank you, but no. Like I can't. Like I hate when people
What does
like
she
offer.
want you to do?
I don't know. She was like, I just think like it's really relatable to your. I forget what it was, but it was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like
Non-comedian
Yeah.
people have no idea what we are.
I
No.
just
They don't.
like.
God
No.
love them, but they have no idea.
Yeah, I don't want to take someone else's life experience and then make a joke about it, unless like
Yeah.
you know it's something that has like affected me in some way.
Right. Because yeah, you're not really qualified to. You're
Ri-
the most qualified to talk about yourself.
Right. It doesn't feel authentic. Like my friend is like, you know, she's single and like dating all these guys and having all these like crazy dating, you know, experiences. And she's like, you could use that. And I'm like, no, that's not my experience. Like I don't
a
want to.
boyfriend.
Right.
yeah.
Like it would feel like it's like wearing someone else's shoes.
It's
You know?
terrible. Do you know how many years I went on stage and talked about my girlfriend that I didn't fucking have?
Oh no.
I
can't.
stunk. Boy, did I
can't.
stink.
I
can't believe how long.
Okay, I'm not going to say anything
and
bad to you
it
because
was
I did
so
that about a
interesting.
wife after my divorce.
You know what's crazy?
Yeah, I did it. I get it.
So like, you know, my mom, she was the judge who put OJ Simpson in prison for the robbery case. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, I didn't.
So, okay. So I have jokes about it, and like people will come up to me and they'll be like, is that true? And I'm like, I couldn't even imagine like making something up so crazy and having the confidence to go out there and like
And tell
say
this,
that it
yeah.
was my life. And you know, you do see like you'll see comics get on stage and say the most outrageous things that you know for a fact are not true.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, who are you?
Yeah.
Who even are you? And like, what is this?
What are
Talk
you
about
doing
your
here?
life. Like,
Yeah.
we want to get to know you, not like this fake
No.
story that you made up that you think the
gotta get
audience
over
will
that.
give a fuck about.
You're
like,
uniquely qualified to talk about yourself, and
Yeah.
you're talking about someone that's
like how
not real.
uninteresting is your life that you have to
Right.
like make
Make shit
something
up.
up.
Well, see, that was I told this joke I would say about my wife, just these jokes that she was just a part of my set for so many years.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, but we're divorced. I'm
Right.
telling a lie to these people that they probably know with social
Well,
media searching
All
is
you
not
could
true
say,
anymore.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's just an easy fix of my ex-wife. You know, you can still, it's a,
Oh, I never even said that part. I was like, still like we were still married.
yeah, but that's fine because I understand that because you build an act and
Yeah.
you have this person who's been a part of your life and then you guys break up. Like you're gonna have in between
Oh, yeah.
the time of developing a new act and new bits,
Mhm.
you still have your old jokes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We
Like,
were
Yeah.
married 16 years, and then
Yeah.
one day it literally changed when I said I started telling the jokes from the point of like I'm collecting XYs like Pokemon,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that guy.
all it takes is something like that. Then
Yeah.
you could be like my last wife or like, you
Right.
know what I mean? You
Yeah.
can still do those jokes, but it's a matter of like,
Yeah.
she used to, or,
Mhm.
you know,
And that was when it felt free. Once again, being that I was being vulnerable. It was not funny, but it was vulnerable. I was
mean-
being vulnerable. But yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, I get that where you'll have like, I'm telling about this girlfriend, but I was like, okay.
It's terrible. It's pathetic. I know, especially like, I mean, I was like so not having sex. Like,
that's hilarious.
you know what I mean?
I
Like,
love
not
you.
even in the arena of there being a possibility, you know, just like staying in my parents' house in my room, like fucking smoking weed.
See, that's funny though.
I know that's I had this unique like thing where I was just, and then like mental health stuff and just like, yeah. And like talking about, I hooked up with this girl last night. No, I jerked off 4 times and
Right.
passed out and slept till 1 p.m.
Yeah.
I am full of shit and it's crazy.
Yeah, but those are the like when you first start out in comedy, you don't know shit. You know,
No.
we're always learning. We're always
Yeah.
but when you're starting out, you know, those are
Yeah.
just simple things that like simple mistakes that
yeah.
you make.
And you're trying to relate, you're trying to feel like you, for some reason you think, or at least I did, I'm like, I have to be the man on stage, or at least I have to like
See, that's
be-
not funny.
Yeah, it's not at all.
I've seen a lot of guys that do that.
But like I didn't want to seem like, I don't know, like I had a life that wasn't worth talking about.
See, there's this comic that I used to be friends with who is like not funny, but so cocky on stage. Like that is the opposite. Like that is the opposite of funny to me when you go
Right.
up there and you think you're entitled to the laughs, you know,
And your life is so perfect. Yeah.
or just like I don't know. And so it just makes me cringe when I'm like, there's nothing like now I'm laughing at your lack of self-awareness, like that you think
Mhm.
you're the shit when it's like, no, that's not funny. Like, you know,
Yeah.
that's not relatable either.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
I don't know.
crazy when a comic
Cringe.
attacks the audience
Ugh.
for not laughing. They're not trying to be an asshole. You're just not funny.
yeah, no,
and they're responding
I had
accordingly.
a friend that is exactly that to a T in a nutshell, and they will constantly post their L's on Facebook and
It's
Twitter. Like the
Yeah.
entitlement is insane. And I actually told this person, I was like, you are literally entitled, and it's not. And you don't even see it, but like they will post about all the rejection emails they get, or they'll anytime that like they'll post about how they're always emailing all these clubs. Like every day they email clubs, and they've emailed clubs over and over and over. And they're like, oh, it's because I don't have these followers, and it's because of this and that. But I am funny. And it's like, you're not funny. Like you are just so deeply not funny.
Yeah,
and
that
like,
is the problem.
All the evidence points to that. Cause like there's comedians who like don't have the followers, but they are funny. They just don't care about social media. This person has 17 podcasts, posts clips all the time, never gets any traction, blames it on the algorithm, blames it on literally anything else other than them they won't accept they're not funny.
Wow.
Like it's crazy. Like it's delusion. You know, that's
complete
a big part
delusion. But you can't be that. I don't know how you can be that delusional when the results are they're smacking you in the face every single time you go on stage. Like that is
that's the delusion.
Extreme delusion. Yeah.
Do you know how many of those guys are outside right now?
I know, and it doesn't bother. It bugs me so much that they can go on stage and just have a mediocre set and then not give a flying. Like
I know it's almost like you wish you had a little bit of that, but it's like
little bit.
but like of the like the confidence of a mediocre, unfunny person.
Yeah, but
that's like even with the naked roast, like the delusion to go up there and think like, you know, you could even say anything about any other person's body image or whatever. And it is like, it's like confidence and delusion, but also self-hatred. Like you don't even know which one is more, but it's like a recipe for all of that. But yeah,
it would be a great episode. We should do a naked roast. Pain management. We're all gonna have to be naked and do the interview.
I quit.
just like I'm out. Come on, man. So it's like I know you'd be mad with me because you just gonna be straight.
So like I have the imposter syndrome where I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not funny enough. Same. Like this and that. But it's like, oh, all evidence suggests that I am exactly where I need to be. And
100%.
In fact, all these comics who I look up to and respect tell me I'm funny. But you know, it still doesn't matter because it's like how I feel on the inside. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it can't be changed from other people telling you things. And it's like you can get overwhelming evidence. That I am funny. People like me. People have a high opinion, and that doesn't matter.
I've had viral clips like this, that all the things. Like
I'll have that. Like
I've been mentioned on podcast. Like none of that even matters when you are battling, inside your own mind with your self.
I came off stage at Skankfest and Rachel Feinstein told me, you just murdered. And I was geeked for about 5 minutes. We're like, nobody can tell me shit.
And then after that 5 minutes, all it took was something like some thought to cross your mind or some situation where it's like, oh, back to square one.
Yeah. But for 5 minutes, Rachel Feinstein, I was like, I would murder somebody for you, lady. You are my goddess right there. Do you need new followers? Because I'm there. Let's start a church for you, Rachel.
She's very funny.
She is, man. And she was so kind to me. And Ryan Long, they were both like really encouraging. But but seriously, like, I'm back to my regular life. But like, shortly after this,
can you guys like, even with that delusion, have like, at least in the back of the mind or even the front of the mind, sometimes like, okay, I am funny.
I mean, you'll have moments of clarity because like it's all about like, with borderline, like what are the facts? Right. Mm-hmm. And the facts, you have to remind yourself what the facts are. Like we were talking about, I am funny. People have always told me I'm funny. This is something they've always told me as a kid. Since I was very young. People I like and respect who are way more successful than me in comedy tell me I'm funny. I've booked work based off being funny. Right. I'm headlining 3 years into comedy. Like there's, obviously
evidence,
it's not because, like I got thrown into headlining because of like my job opportunity, like the Jackass stuff or whatever. But again, like I'm exactly where I need to be. I just need to keep learning and keep growing to become the comic that I know I could be. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I think it's natural to just be like, I'm not good enough. I'm not, I would rather be there than the opposite of like, I'm the shit. I'm
course.
entitled to this.
Yeah.
No one can tell me nothing. Like,
It's wild. You're
that's
going-
not funny nor relatable. Most
No.
people, have their demons
Yeah.
and have, self-confidence issues and things
Yeah.
like that. Like,
I think if you're walking around that cocky, your fall is going to come and it's going to hurt.
yeah. Well, I think
Yeah.
I think it probably does. There probably do have falls, but it's like they're just convinced themselves like
Yeah.
what we should all be trying to convince ourselves with. if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's going to be rough. All right, dude. How are we? We good? Okay. I was kind of checking the time. I was like, look.
Hour and a half.
All right. What?
Wow,
That
we
was
killed it.
We really did.
It was a great talk, man.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was
I
such a great
so
talk.
appreciate you coming
Oh
on,
my God,
man.
thank you guys.
A great
Yeah,
guest.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
Of course.
Very informative information.
A lot.
Where
a
can
lot
people
of-
find you online?
They can find me at Rachel WOLFSON. I haven't been podcasting in a while. I have to get back on it. I have a podcast called Rachel Interrupted, based, kind of playing on the
Okay.
border,
Hell yeah.
a girl interrupted. And yeah, I'm at Wolfie Comedy on Twitter. I'm just trying to post clips and videos and stay relevant. But I also I'm on the road right now, so you can find my dates at rachelwolfsoncomedy.com. And I'm going to be in San Diego, Bakersfield, Arizona, Houston, Tampa, Miami coming soon. So I'm
yeah.
out here, Naples.
Wow.
Yeah,
Doing it
Moving
big.
around. That's cool.
back on
Hell
the
yeah.
road.
Love it.
All right. Jimmy,
Sweet.
where can we find you online?
Jimmy.Moynihan on Instagram. And then you can also follow our podcast page at Pain Management Podcast on Instagram.
Yes. And then you can find me at Coach Silky. And a lot of you have been finding me, and I know why, because Christina Mariani posted something new. And every time she does, they find a video of her and I together
Exactly.
trying to make each other laugh, and I get new followers. So,
And,
Christina Mariani, God bless you and thank you, lady. Okay.
Yeah.
But
and
also,
if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast or whatever, you can watch these episodes at Creek and Cave Studios. Is it going to be called something?
Creek TV now.
Creek.
it's Creek
Okay, so
TV. Okay.
it's called Creek TV. So if you YouTube search Creek TV, you can watch all these podcasts too online.
Not Creek Streams.
Shit.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding. No, we have to rebrand.
There's a new rebranding coming right now.
Shit.
Yeah, because the Creek, we did switch to Creek TV 2025, and our podcast is on there. We got good news last week. The podcast is now international.
Yeah.
We
What?
have,
Worldwide?
well, yeah, we have listener, like a
Canada.
solid listener base in Canada, Sweden, and Colombia.
Pretty
I like
good.
how you guys stream at the creek.
Pretty cool.
I'm not going to let that go.
Bet you on the puns. I love it.
I'm sorry.
I feel like as a father, I've disappointed my children not picking that up
Dad
and
jokes
putting it down.
2025.
Yeah.
But Proin, this is going to be coming out right around or right before we go to IkiCon.
Is it?
So if you wanted to,
Oh, so
Promote.
yeah, you guys, we are in January. We're going to do a large anime convention, IkiCon, one of the largest in Central Texas. We're going to be there doing comedy, but we're also shooting Pain Management Podcast live in front of a studio audience for the first time. You can still go to ikicon.com and get tickets and come out and meet us and see us do the show live. And it's going to be kind of we haven't announced our guest list, but it's weird how many anime voice actors want to be on here.
Wow.
It's been crazy.
I'm
My
excited.
DMs are crazy nerdy right now. So.
Very excited.
cool.
All
cool.
right. See you guys soon. Thank you for watching the episode. Bye.